Oh, we back. That's fun. And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show. It is Friday, July 15th. Didn't know that. Had to look. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. 13-game MLB slate for today to round out the work week. Before we get started, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, tell me more about how great I am at picking Tristan McKenzie.
How much did you end up playing?
Less than the field.
Good job. Yes, I mean, so did I. But yeah, McKenzie really came through yesterday. So that,
yeah.
In addition to it just being bad for my lineups, it really pissed me off because of our conversation.
I likely would have had a bit more, but I lowered his strikeout rate to listen to dumb people, and that got me nowhere at all. Okay, Sean V's victory lapping Anibal Sanchez. 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks, 4 runs allowed. Exactly the amount I said. Exactly the amount of what? Innings, strikeouts, walks, runs?
Runs?
Some of those things aren't good.
I don't even see, I guess I have to refresh. I didn't even see what he said, but literally last night I was looking as the Braves have, a decent game, hit 3 home runs, and I'm like, he's going to somehow victory lap this.
I said 4 runs. I don't.
Okay, so if you
what does that mean?
If you thought that the Braves were going to score 4 runs off of the starting pitchers, that's probably a team you should have been playing.
Yeah, how far were you expecting Anibal Sanchez to go into the game? That kind of pace is like 8 or 9 runs.
Right, yeah. Yeah, 4 runs in 5 innings is not a bad start.
Sometimes I just don't understand. Yeah, when I saw the message from you last night, I was doing stuff around the house and you were just like, hope you had a lot of McKenzie. And I didn't know if you were saying it because he had like -7 and you were really just twisting the knife, or he was smashing. And then I pulled it up and saw that he was smashing. And I was just like,
absolutely crushing.
Nice. I mean, I ended up with a ton of Rodon and Burns. Brandon, who started for the Brewers last night? Burns, right? Yeah. Burns. I don't know. They've got 2 guys. Whoever's starting tonight is like the same thing in my mind. So I just ended up with a ton of those 2, and that was fine enough.
I had a ton of Rodon, like 25% Gossman, 25% Burns, like 20% Carrasco.
I'm going to play with that this afternoon. Obviously, it's something that you and I have talked about a bit, where I should be just sort of more concentrated on the highest end of pitching, and just because of not stacking for this month. But I think that I'm probably going a bit too far in that direction if I'm not getting to the guy that I think is like under-owned and the 3rd best projected pitcher. Something's probably just like slightly off.
Right, so. Yeah, like yesterday, like in general, I think you should be getting to good pitching. But yesterday there was a lot of good pitching. You don't need to just be jamming like the 2 specific ones at the very top.
Yeah, just got to figure out what that adjustment is to dial that back a little bit. But look, that's what happens when you think to yourself, hey, I'm going to start a completely different mechanism for playing MLB DFS and learn it from scratch in a video series for 3 weeks. Like, you're not going to have all of the FC settings and sims and sorts and stuff right out of the gate. I've never built lineups unstacked before. Baseball's really easy to build for when you stack. It doesn't take that long at all. Anyway, 13 games.
I want to just follow up real quick. Sean V saying everybody said that Sanchez was going to get shelled. If a 7.2 ERA and 3.6 home runs per 9 innings is not getting shelled, what is getting shelled?
I mean, yeah, he unequivocally pitched poorly.
Yeah, like it was bad.
Like that's a what? 15th percentile outcome for him?
For him, that's like median probably. But
well, I mean, if you maintain those rates, you're not in the league for 3 months. So right. I think he can be, on the ass end of the rotation, but it's bad. He gave up 4 hits.
He pitched 5 innings. He gave up 4 hits, walked 2 guys. 2 of those hits were home runs.
Yeah. He gave up the worst kind of hits.
Right.
If he had 4 singles, it's a different line. A lot less earned runs. Oh, man. What a weird victory lap. You ready to break this slate down?
No, I kind of just want to keep talking about this, but yeah, we can go.
I mean, so do I. Very different slate today top stack is pretty smushed together for me. We don't have like the crazy, like we have the Rockies and Coors. It's not as crazy as it's been. Pitching is just a dart throw at the top. So we're going to have, how is that shelled? Did you hear what he said? Let's just say this. Let's say that Anibal Sanchez finishes the year maintaining the stats that he had against the Braves, a 13 ERA and giving up 3 home runs every 9 innings. What would we call that season other than the worst ever?
Like the only thing you can point to here that's decent is it's a 4.09 xFIP as opposed to a 7.2 ERA. But yeah, I mean, that if you're giving up 4 earned runs every 5 innings and 2 home runs every 5 innings, you're not pitching in the major leagues for very long.
No, not at all. The home runs are the problem. 13 ERA, huh? Go ahead. Quickly explain to him the math of calculating ERA, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
It was 7.2.
Didn't you say it was 13?
No.
You sure?
Yep.
7 point what? 7.2? Was it 7? Wait, no, it's not even going to round up. You said 13.
I said 7.2 and 3.6 home runs per 9.
Oh, man. I could have swore I heard 13. Whatever. 7.2 and 13 are the same thing to me. They're both not keeping you in the major leagues. How many people have a 7 ERA this season? And how many of them are going to get to pitch tomorrow? Very, very small amount of people that could get to that number. So
yeah. On the scale of getting shelled, like, yeah, it obviously could have been a lot worse, but like he didn't pitch well. It went poorly. The Braves scored 4 runs in 5 innings. Like they hit 2 home runs. You're taking that start every time if you're the Braves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Yankees and Red Sox. I can't do this anymore. He's a moron. 4.8 run implied total for the Yankees, 3.8 for the Red Sox. Jordan Montgomery and Nathan Eovaldi going here. Montgomery, 7,900, 12% owned. Eovaldi, 8,700, 1% owned. Clearly facing the Yankees is difficult. I'll get to Eovaldi in a second. I have Jordan Montgomery spot on the number for ownership right now. A mid-tier guy, looks fine. I don't know what else to say here. Looks pretty similar to Urquidy for me.
Yeah, agreed. Just sort of middle of the pack, not a great matchup. He hasn't been getting as many strikeouts this year either. I had said earlier in the year that I thought maybe that would turn around just because he was still getting swings and misses, but still hasn't turned around. So don't really expect it to at this point, I guess. Like maybe it still comes up a little bit, but he's not walking a lot of guys. Still has a 3.64 xFIP. He's solid, just doesn't seem super useful.
Okay. I got Eovaldi in my sim more than the 1%, mostly because every once in a while, a guy of his ilk is just going to be decent, even in a bad spot. But I don't feel like today's a day where I need to target against the Yankees.
Agreed.
Yeah. Like, especially at 8,700. Anyway,
he's a good pitcher, but I just don't think you really need to get there. I'm more.
There's too many guys that are better.
Right. I'm more interested in getting to Montgomery at 7,900. I think he's going a little underowned on FanDuel as well at 8,700. He's going to be in my tournament plays video that's coming out right after the show. So, yeah, more interested in getting there just because the Red Sox lineup's a little bit weaker and Montgomery's a little bit cheaper.
Let's talk bats. And this doesn't appear to be a very long conversation, even though both of these teams are more interesting than their ownership shows, or at least the Yankees are. 21st in ownership, 12th in our top stack tool. That's the same place I have them. Like, do I want to get to a little bit of Yankees because their upside is as high as anybody's? Yes. Does today feel like that day? No.
Yeah, there's a lot of not very good pitching on this slate, which is going to make it more difficult to get to the Yankees against Eovaldi. So, like, they're going under-owned in terms of chances of success, top stack percentage versus ownership, but they're also one of the worst value stacks on the slate. They're in a tough spot. I'm never going to be upset about getting to the Yankees, but I just don't think it's really going to happen on this slate.
No, like if you get their top stack percentage, like 3.5% aggregate stacks to the Yankees, that's probably fine and meaningless to your portfolio.
Pornbot jumped in just to get Sean to shut up.
Yeah, new AI will not find a girl for Sean V. That I'm confident in. Red Sox bats, they're just like a worse version of the Yankees, so I don't see any value here.
Yeah, I don't really see much. I mean, Devers, Martinez, Bogarts are always fine, but 3.5 implied run total. Tough matchup against Montgomery. Just doesn't seem very good. Someone asked how Montgomery's been against righties this year. 169 expected ISO, 17% strikeout percentage. So not great, not horrible, just pretty average.
There it is.
Other than the strikeouts.
Game number 2, Nationals and Braves. The champs are here. 4-run implied total for the Nats, 5.4 for the Braves. Patrick Corbin going for Washington, Ian Anderson for Atlanta. Neither guy picking up any ownership. 6,400 for Corbin, 6,600 for Anderson. I don't have any interest in pitching here.
Neither do I. Hopefully this is not another one of those slates where I just get to a bunch of Ian Anderson. Actually, it won't be because I'm not playing tonight. But 6,600 for Anderson, like it's a cheap price tag if you need to get there. But the Nats don't strike out a lot. Anderson's strikeout numbers this year are down 19.4%, 4.26 xFIP. It's a situation where I think he is still a bit underpriced, but you probably also don't really need him here. He's projected for 1% ownership, 5% chance of being a top 2 pitcher.
Josh Gillum, why would we want to get rid of the porn bots? That's like the most fun thing that happens. They don't, if it were nonstop, it'd be awful. But if they pop in like once or twice with a funny AI titled, porn line, I'm all for it. All for it. All right, let's talk Braves. This is a big spot here. 6th in aggregate ownership, 7.5%. Second in our top stack tool. They are actually my top stack for today. And that is because I did check the Braves fan homer box in the model. Other than Acuna at 19%, they're not chalky at all. Corbin's whatever at this point. 5.4 run implied total is the second biggest mark on the slate. I love Atlanta.
Yeah, I think they look great here as well. Patrick Corbin is not particularly good. He's one of the worst starting pitchers on the slate. He's allowed 1.43 home runs per 9 this year, 4.13 xFIP. Against right-handed hitters, a 250 expected ISO, only a 19.8% strikeout percentage, 178 expected ISO to lefties. That doesn't matter a ton because this lineup is going to be almost entirely right-handed with the exception of Matt Olson and I assume Michael Harris. Olson hits lefties really well, so doesn't matter a ton there anyway. Atlanta looks great.
They really do. Obviously, Acuna in cash considerations for sure, but this is going to be a team I get to pretty aggressively. Oh, they're back. Have a good time. Find the love. I'm going to try. Nats side, there's nothing here for me.
Yeah, me neither. Soto, Bell, Cruz, always fine, but I don't think I would get to much of Washington. They are kind of cheap. Like those 3 guys are all good, and then you have Garcia leading off for cheap. Yadiel Hernandez is cheap, but again, I just think there's enough bad pitching on the slate that I probably wouldn't get to much Washington.
Here we go. Sean V taking a look at those 35 innings of road ball for Zach Greinke, making decisions based on that. And that should be fantastic. Really excited to get to it. Which
he got to the right decision though.
For sure. For the complete wrong reasons, but let's talk about it right now. 5.3 run implied total for the Blue Jays, 3 for the Royals. I assume you saw the result of this game yesterday.
Yep.
I mean, we said it on the stream, no surprises.
Yeah.
I mean, surprises, obviously, but what? I didn't see the final, actually.
I think it was it 3-1?
Yeah, 3-1. I mean, you're going to need a Witt homer in those situations. One of the few guys left with a pulse.
Right.
It happened. Anyway, Alek Manoah going for the Jays. Zach Greinke going for the Royals, as I mentioned. Manoah, 28% owned at 9K. I like getting to Manoah, generally speaking. It feels a lot better on a day like today. So sign me up for all of the Manoah. I don't mind that happening at all.
Yeah, same boat. Manoah looks very good. Still a really watered down KC lineup. We did see the lack of strikeouts yesterday. I know I mentioned that on the show when we talked about Gausman, that it's still not the best strikeout lineup, but it's still a really weak lineup. The only above average hitters on this team right now are Bobby Witt and Pasquantino. So it still sets up really well for Manoah. Hopefully he can pull out a couple more strikeouts than Gausman did. But overall this year, another good pitcher, 3.88 xFIP, 22.7% strikeout percentage, very reasonable price tag at 9K. I'm with you, just getting to a bunch of Manoah.
How great do the Blue Jays look? Because Zach Greinke hasn't had a lot of results on the road this season. 35 innings pitched, not very good. Seems like we should make all of our decisions based on 35 innings.
Hasn't been good in general, and Toronto has a good lineup. So certainly interested in the Blue Jays here. Didn't get to them yesterday. Glad I didn't. Didn't really matter because my teams sucked anyway, but gladly would get to them here. They are currently projected for about 8% ownership, 7% chance of being the top stack. So it looks a bit different than yesterday where they were one of the highest owned teams. Now you have Coors Field knocking that ownership back down. So certainly happy to get to them against Greinke. He's clearly at the tail end of his career. 236 expected ISO to righties this year with a 15% strikeout percentage. Doesn't exactly set up well when you're going against Springer, Guerrero, Kirk, Bichette, Hernandez, Gurriel, Chapman, Espinal. Like, seems like a lot of trouble for Greinke.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I think I'd really like to play the Blue Jays if this game were in Kansas City as well. Spoiler alert, Zach Greinke sucks no matter where he's pitching. So give me this one. Whatever location you want to put this game, I'm in for Toronto.
I mean, do prefer it in Rogers Center, but...
Sure, of course. That has nothing to do with Zach Greinke.
That has more to do with Rogers Center than Greinke's home run splits.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's just because Rogers Center is better than Kauffman Stadium. Yeah. But yeah, independent of Greinke. I just want to play the Blue Jays against
I'm sure you don't
Greinke.
know the answer to this. Do the Blue Jays still hit like markedly better at home? Like unbelievably. I'm pretty sure they've been cheating for like a decade, but
I have no idea, but let's look. All right. Team batting splits for the season at where the fuck is home? Can you do that?
Yeah.
Where is home and away?
Splits.
Dude. Why isn't it one of the first things you could look at? Oh, because it's probably not all that interesting. All right. Home split advanced. Toronto 120 WRC plus at home. And yikes. Where is it? Oh my God.
It's like in the middle.
103 on the road.
Yeah. What's their ISO on the road? It's 190 at home.
156.
What's their strikeout percentage?
21.
Okay, it's 20 and a half at home. Just was kind of curious because they were one of the teams, them in Cleveland, I think it was, back when like Houston was getting all the attention and the Yankees were getting all the attention. Like somehow Toronto was just going under the radar that they'd just been basically cheating for 10 years.
Do you know what the Tigers WRC plus is on the road this year?
Definitely worse than at home.
Take a guess.
74.
66.
That's pretty bad.
Hard to do. Springer, Guerrero, Kirk in play for cash today?
Yeah. I mean, Kirk was my cash catcher yesterday, so I would think against Greinke he's in play again. Guerrero certainly in play. Springer certainly in play. I would assume Bichette and Hernandez also are.
How many Royals bats are you looking to get to here on the opposite side of Manoah? Fourth in top value.
Yeah, probably none. I mean, if you get to some Witt or some cheap Pasquantino, that's fine, but it's just really hard for me to make a case to stack this god-awful team.
Lowest implied total on the slate for the Royals today.
This has to be one of the lowest of the year. 2.7.
You would think. It's hard to get much worse.
It's a AAA team with two good players.
You need like Cole instead of Manoah, and to get it a little bit lower, probably like Yankees, but like there's not a lot of paths to that.
Like this team right now is closer to being a AAA team with a couple of major leaguers rehabbing than it is an actual major league team.
Yeah, it really is. They're lucky they had enough available bodies.
I mean, they just called guys up from the minors.
Sure, but like you only have a 40-man roster. So many of them are pitchers right out of the gate.
Oh,
like,
sure, yeah.
I don't know what the vaccination status is in their AAA affiliate, but they certainly don't. My guess is that they don't have to be. So,
right,
like even the pool of guys you're pulling from might just not be vaxxed. Doesn't take long before you're just like, we have 9 people. Right. So and so's not a catcher, but he caught in high school.
Yeah, you're back to like the summer league games where it's just like everybody's on vacation, so your shortstop becomes your catcher, and
yeah, exactly. Oh man, I get to play in the infield today. All right, schedule for the rest of the day. This one's simple. It's Friday. There's not a lot else going on. MLB Deeper Dive kicking off at 4:45. That'll be me and Adam once again, breaking it all down. once again. MLB Live Before Lock from 6 to 7. I assume it's Greg and Eric. So watch those shows. 2 hours and 15 minutes worth of content taking you all the way up until lock. Plus, free content for today. MLB Top Stacks. We touch on it all the time. I think it's a very important tool for today because we don't have teams pulling away from the pack like we did before. Everybody knew the Padres were going to be the top stack for 3 days or 4 days or whatever it was in for this past week. But now a little bit different, which means got to pay attention a little bit more. Top stack tool is free. Go to stokastic.com for that. Guardians and Tigers. We just talked about how well the Tigers hit on the road. They are on the road today. 4.7 run implied total for Cleveland. 3.5 for the Tigers. Zach Plesac and Drew Hutchison going here. 12% ownership going to Plesac, none to Hutchison. Plesac's ownership seems relatively okay. At 7,200 in a matchup against the Tigers, pretty much anybody works.
Yeah, he's not very good, but the Tigers also are not very good. So at 7,200, getting 12% ownership, 8% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. I don't really want Plesac, but he can just kind of find his way into some lineups and be fine.
Yeah, there's not a lot to like add on there. He's just by default, if a team's hitting, obviously we don't expect this to continue, but if a team's hitting 66, has a 66 WRC plus on the road and you can throw 5+ innings, you are an available starting pitcher in DFS.
Yeah, 17% strikeout percentage, 4-point-something xFIP, 4.39 xFIP, 1.1 home runs per 9. He's not good, but he's not bad enough to not be in consideration against the Tigers.
All righty. Let's talk bats here. And this Cleveland team targeting Hutchison, second in ownership for today, 11.5% owned. They are 11th in our top stack tool, 6th in top value. Now, a lot of this is coming from Jose Ramirez. We say this basically every time we do a show, but double-digit exposure to Kwan, Reyes, Jimenez, Nolan Jones. I get the prices here. It's a lot of it is a value-based proposition. I assume the Guardians are the team that I fade the most today.
Yeah, yesterday I ended up around even on them. Today I think I probably would get a little bit lower just because teams like Toronto and Atlanta aren't pulling as much ownership as they were yesterday, whereas Cleveland still is. But it is a good spot. You know, Hutchison, not a particularly good pitcher. Cleveland is favorably priced. They have Jose Ramirez, who's clearly one of the best third base options. Josh Naylor looks very good at that price tag at first base. Kwan's a cheap leadoff hitter. Reyes has plenty of power. Jones is still minimum salary. So I understand why Cleveland's getting the ownership. It's not that I, really want to get away from them. It's just that there are a few teams that also look very good that aren't getting quite as much.
I ended up very light on Cleveland yesterday, so I'm not surprised by that. Wouldn't be surprised if I still got to a decent chunk of Jose Ramirez, but yeah, I don't expect to get to the rest of this Cleveland team, even in this spot. And I don't really expect to get to the 11th most owned team on the slate, the Detroit Tigers, because they are the number 1 top value team. I don't care about Plesac, but I certainly don't want the Tigers.
I mean, I got to the Tigers quite a bit yesterday, so against McKenzie, so I wouldn't be surprised if I got to him today. Plesac's not good. Obviously, the Tigers aren't either, but 218 expected ISO to lefties from Plesac this year with only a 10.9% strikeout percentage. Sign me up for some Riley Green leading off. Victor Reyes from the left side. That kind of is the end of that conversation as far as lefties go. Like Harold Castro, Candelario, your boy Candelario, Akil Baddoo if he's in the lineup. Those guys are all left-handed. But righties are doing damage too. 266 expected ISO to righties. He does have a 22.5% strikeout percentage there. But if Baez is back in the lineup, it's a reasonable price tag on him. You have Miggy at basically minimum salary. You have Scope who's cheap. Not saying I think it's very likely Detroit comes through, but I do think that there's some upside here, just given that Plesac's not very good.
That totally makes sense to me. We'll see the battle of a terrible pitcher versus a terrible road offense. Well, maybe terrible's not right for Plesac. Below average.
Yeah, not very good. Individually, though, like I do really like Riley Green.
No reason you shouldn't. Rays and Orioles, 3.9 run implied total on both sides of this one. Luis Patino and Tyler Wells, no real ownership coming in. I don't get the sense we're going to pitching here.
I don't think so. Patino is making his first start in the majors, or first appearance in the majors, since April 11th. 78 pitches in his most recent rehab outing. So I assume he's basically good to go. He's one of the top pitching prospects in baseball, but I also just don't think you're really going to need to get much of him here. I don't expect him to have a particularly long leash. Like, I'm assuming he's throwing 80, 85 pitches and they're looking to get him out of there.
Yeah, I didn't really get to either one of these guys. So Detroit has a top 5 bullpen somehow. That's a thing.
They won't do much to Plesac, 2 or 3 runs at the max. Yeah, man, they have like a 3.5 implied run total. Like, they probably will not do much to Plesac. You're right.
Yes. As you can see from what I said in chat, 18th in XFIP for the Tigers as a bullpen. 18th in Scherer, too, if you just want to look at like another metric that isn't ERA. Bats, 21st in ownership for the Rays, 16th for the Orioles. Seems like a day where you're going to tell me that you want to get to the low-owned Orioles.
I mean, low-owned Orioles is always pretty appealing just because 1 through 6 is solid, but the park does suck. It's going to be tough to prioritize them. They are cheap, though. Mullen's the most expensive hitter in the lineup on DraftKings at 4,300. The next most expensive hitter is Hayes at 3,700. Rutschman's 35, Mountcastle and Santander are 33, Mancini's 28. They're basically priced like the Tigers. I think Patino's better than Plesac, but obviously there's a lot of volatility here with a guy making his second start of the year coming off the 60-day injured list. I certainly think there's a lot more talent in the lineup for Baltimore than there is for Detroit. So if they're going to get less ownership, I do think they're kind of interesting.
Where do they have them projected? No, we got Josh Gillum saying Tigers do have a good bullpen, though. What stat are we basing that on? Because I can see a league average one based on everything that's going on so far this season. Is that not the way that we project things? Let's see. Based on the depth chart of relievers at Fangraphs, the Tigers have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14th best bullpen based on projections, 18th in XFIP and Sierra. They do not have a good bullpen. They have an average bullpen, which looks great next to a shitty starting pitching staff. You're going to get a lot of time to acquire value in like a WAR perspective when your pitchers leave after 3 innings.
That is true.
Anything else here, Rays or O's?
Nope.
Guys, hit that like button. 213 viewers. This is a light crowd for a Friday, but no reason we can't get up to 100. So hit that thumbs up. 3.5 run implied total for the Rangers, 4.6 for the Mariners. Taylor Hearn, Robbie Ray. No ownership to Hearn in this one. Actually, not in our ownership as of right now. Is he the long man for this? I think that might be the case.
Yeah, Bush is supposed to open.
Not that it matters. Robbie Ray, however, 35% owned. He's $9,800, $400 behind Brandon Woodruff today. Second most expensive pitcher. Can't disagree with a single bit of this. Great strikeout matchup. Robbie Ray is good. Great strikeout rate for Robbie Ray. 35% seems fine. He is the chalkiest pitcher of the day, and I think he deserves it.
Yeah, agreed. He's good. Striking out 27.6% hitters this year, 3.6 xFIP. Matchup is average against Texas. I think maybe going a little bit over-owned, but not anything I'm overly concerned about there.
Best option on the slate today? Obviously, a lot of these guys are real similar at the top.
Yeah, I mean, I think like him, Manoah, Woodruff, Kershaw are all pretty similar.
Fair.
At current ownership, I prefer Kershaw.
You guys scoffed at these types of things yesterday, but I do have Robbie Ray a 1.2 points ahead of everyone else on the slate. So if you want to go with me on my Tristan McKenzie journey again today, Robbie Ray is your man. But yeah, whether it's Woodruff, Ray, Kershaw, Manoah, Darvish, those top 5 guys, all relative to salary, look very similar. Let's talk bats. Is there anything you want to say for the Rangers right now on the opposite side of Ray?
Ray's always had some right-handed power issues. This year, 175 expected ISO. Not bad, but nothing special there. Actually, 205 expected ISO to lefties as well. So, I mean, you can always look for home runs against him, but you're also paying pretty heavy salaries for the top of Texas's lineup. Jonah Heim at 4K is okay, I guess, but I think it's pretty tough to get to the Rangers.
Josh Gillum now quoting whip like we're playing a rotisserie fantasy league for MLB.
And just still going with descriptive stats and nothing that actually says like how they've been.
It's 2022. We should never reference ERA and whip other than the fact that whip is on the screen for reasons that I didn't choose. That's neither here nor there. Oh, they're not good.
Like they're fine.
They're average.
Yeah,
they're average. There's no debate. We have all the data for this kind of stuff. Baseball's not tough to figure out. It really isn't. We've known these advanced stats for 15 years. Go to Fangraphs. Go to Baseball Savant. We have this stuff. Mariners bats are 9th in ownership, 5th in top stack. Not the worst value in the world. You can't play Ty France and Carlos Santana together, which is a sentence that's never been said on this planet. But I think they look okay here.
Yeah, I think they do as well. They're in my top stacks video that's coming out on both DraftKings and FanDuel, just going a bit under-owned. The pricing's pretty fair. I mean, Julio Rodriguez is expensive, but he should be. He steals a ton of bases. He has a ton of power. He's unbelievably good already. Taylor Hearn so far this year, 228 expected ISO allowed to righties with only a 17.5% strikeout percentage. Ty France at 4,300 looks pretty good. Suarez is only 4,300. Bottom of the order, you can get the guys like Dylan Moore with outfield shortstop eligibility. So I do like the Mariners here against Bush/Hearn.
Fair. Yeah, I have 3 guys in the lineup that aren't in our current ownership, so maybe a little bit of wiggle room as to what this team ends up looking like, but I'll be happy to get to a little bit of Mariners. 4.6 run implied total for me, not too bad. Anything else here for you?
Nope.
All righty. Is it 3 games or 4 games for this section? It is 3, which means time to talk about our presenting sponsor. That is Prize Picks. If you use the promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, you can get a $100 deposit match bonus when you sign up at Prize Picks. So if you put in 50, you don't get the 100. You only get 50. But if you put in 100, they will match with 100. And if you go to 200, they will still only give you $100. It's a great deal. We've got plenty of tools at Stokastic.com that I think will help you out tremendously in picking some of the props that you have to pick at Prize Picks. But you can go to sports that are like way off the beaten path. If you want to go to highlight or disc golf, they pop on from time to time. Even if you want to get into like relatively normal stuff like CFL or Call of Duty, you could do that. Or just go for baseball, golf. The NBA Summer League is on there. Tons of good stuff. I'm going to hit Adam with a couple projections right now. We'll see where we end up. Let's start with hitters fantasy points. And as we get to a game that's interesting, we're going to go straight to the big bats here. Aaron Judge, 8.5.
Over.
I got him at 8.1, so I actually would take the under. I mean, I would take nothing, but
sure,
I would lean under. We'll go to the opposite side of this one. 8.5 for Devers. I got it well under.
Yeah, I have under.
Yeah. I actually think that it wouldn't be fun, but I think it's like a good play, which is not the way that I want to I don't want to reverse root against Rafael Devers. Right.
Yeah, taking unders on hitters that good. I mean, not a lot of fun, but looks like a solid under.
It's like cheering for an under in games. Right. It's just like, oh, I hope everybody misses. It's like, you son of a bitch. Vlad Guerrero Jr., 8.5 as well.
Over.
I assume. Over. Yeah, I got it at 9.5. I want basically the opposite side of that. Give me the over and give me that to cheer for. And then one last one, because I think this one's kind of fun. This is a snap over for me. Makes me think that my model is mildly wrong. Bobby Witt Jr., 4.5.
Oh, way over.
Thank you. I got 6.8.
Yeah.
Do they think that he's like Bobby Witt Sr.?
Right, 7+. I mean, yeah, that's an easy over.
Take advantage of that right now, guys. Take it when you can. All right, let's get to game number 7.
One thing for Josh Gillum. I've never said the word expect. I've never said expected ERA. That's Greg. And 2, the expected part means forward-looking, predictive, not what they've already done.
Yeah.
So massive difference between you using ERA and Greg using expected ERA. But also that's not me.
Yeah, I wouldn't use it either, but it's way closer to the right answer than everything else. All righty. Twins and White Sox, 4.9 run implied total for Minnesota, 4.2 for the White Sox. Devin Smeltzer and Michael Kopech going here, and neither guy is getting any ownership. Used to be where you can get some strikeouts in the Twins lineup. That is not the case now. I don't have anything here. There's a ceiling for Kopech, but I don't really want to be in this one for pitching.
Yeah, pretty tough, I think, to get to Kopech here. He's got okay strikeout stuff at 22.5%, but walks too many guys, which typically also is going to mean that you're behind in counts a lot, which is a pretty scary spot to be in against Minnesota. 4.88 xFIP is not good. 1.15 home runs per 9, also not good. If you're into ERA, he has a 3.35 ERA, so I guess load up. But outside of those people, I don't really see much of a case for Kopech here against Minnesota.
Bats, on the other hand, are getting a little bit of love. 10th in ownership for the Twins, 14th for the White Sox. Twins got to 7th in top stack. That's also where I have them. I think a little bit of the Twins here, just because of the amount of guys that Kopech can put on base and the amount of power in this Twins lineup. I think they look a little sneaky.
Yeah, I like Minnesota. I think, they're going to be my tournament plays video for DraftKings specifically. Just going a bit under-owned here, 4%. Projected ownership, 5% chance of being the top stack. Mentioned it with Kopech. He's got good stuff. He's a promising pitching prospect, if you still want to call him a prospect at this point, but gets behind the counts too much, walks too many guys, gives up power, hasn't been particularly good this year. 170 expected ISO to righties, 279 to lefties. The strikeout numbers have been much, much better against lefties, but still pretty dangerous when you're giving up power to left-handed hitters. And now you're facing Kepler, Polanco, Kirilloff, Gordon. Arise doesn't have a ton of power, but he's a good hitter. And then your guys from the right side, Correa, Buxton, they just hit everybody. So I think it's a pretty dangerous spot for Kopech.
Yeah, I like it a lot. If he starts putting guys on, there's not a lot of holes from a power perspective. Like, especially once you get out of the leadoff spot, it's pretty much everybody outside of Nick Gordon.
And Gordon hits like a lot of balls hard.
Yeah, he's fine.
294 expected ISO against right-handed pitching for Gordon this year.
Really?
169 actual.
Add in last year. I know where you're at, so I know that's one button click away.
241.
Really? Did it add any plate appearances? Did he not play last year or something?
338 since last year.
Okay.
169 since this year.
Okay. I mean, any of those numbers are like good enough.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah. Average exit velocity this year against right-handed pitching for Gordon is 91.8 miles per hour.
Heat.
Which is higher than Kirilloff, higher than Sanchez, higher than Polanco, higher than Kepler, higher than Buxton, higher than Correa. I think it's the highest on the team. Yeah, it is. It's the highest on the team.
There it is. Are the White Sox like sort of equally as interesting on the opposite side? Maybe not equally, but also interesting on the opposite side.
Yes. Like, I don't think Smeltzer is particularly good. The White Sox have power. We've been saying it a lot recently. Like, they haven't been very good this year, but you have pedigree in this lineup where a lot of these guys have track records of major league success. 234 expected ISO to righties so far this year for Smeltzer. I'm not expecting them to have Jimenez here. I think Vaughn might have left yesterday's game early too. I could be making that up entirely. I'm not sure. But Anderson, Robert, Abreu, those guys are going to look good. Vaughn, if he's in the lineup, Pollock is going to look fine. I'm kind of surprised the White Sox implied run total is as low as it is.
I expected a little bit higher as well. So I'm with you. I like a couple of these bats. Lubob in particular at 3% ownership feels like a guy that just should be higher on as an individual basis.
Yeah.
Lefty-righty matchup too.
What'd you say?
Lefty-righty matchup too.
Yeah, I think it looks really good for him. I mean, obviously $5,600 outfielder. It's just always easy to find good outfield plays. But yeah, he looks really good to me. Anderson and Abreu look fine. Vaughn, Pollock are okay as well. I prefer the Minnesota side, but I think both sides in this game look pretty good.
All righty. Astros and A's, 4.6 run implied total for the Stros, 3.3 for the A's. Jose Urquidy and Cole Irvin. No ownership going to Irvin, but you can find love in your city today if you follow the porn bots in our chat. 5% ownership to Urquidy. I like him a little bit more than that. I think this sort of range is a little slept on today, but it's not something that I'm really crazy about. It's just that Oakland sucks.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of the same thing as Detroit. You can just plug guys in against Oakland and be fine. Urquidy's getting 6% ownership, 10% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. I doubt that I would get to a much just because the top end of pitching looks very good to me today, and it looks like there's a nice gap there. But if you end up in that price range and get to Urquidy, it's fine.
Okay. I did not expect the A's and the Astros to have essentially the same aggregate exposure here, but they do, because the A's are free squares. They are third in top value, whereas the Astros have real MLB players on the team. So it's different. They are Astros are ninth in top stack. I kind of feel the same way about the Astros as I do the Twins for today. Like, just, they look a little bit better than no ownership, basically. I don't know. They're fine.
Yeah, I think that they look good. It's just that they're also expensive pretty much across the board. It's a little bit easier. I mean, like the bottom of the order for Houston is cheap, but also not particularly good. Minnesota, you can, I think the cheap players in the Minnesota lineup are better than the cheap players in the Houston lineup. So it's just going to be easier to make good Minnesota stacks that offset like Byron Buxton's salary than it is to make good Houston stacks that are offsetting guys like Kyle Tucker and, you know, Altuve or Pena. Also, Altuve did leave yesterday's game early, so he could be out, which would weaken this lineup a bit as well. Bregman, Pena, Tucker, those guys are going to look good. Diaz is pretty cheap. But for one, I want to see Houston's lineup. And for two, the bottom of this order does get pretty ugly. Irvin
A's?
so far, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So far this year against righties, 277 expected ISO for Irvin, 194 to lefties. So wouldn't sleep on Kyle Tucker either.
There we go. A's bats. Is this a spot for value for you?
Not really. I mean, Urquidy has allowed a 300 expected ISO to righties this year, 187 to lefties. But the problem is just, you know, what do you do with that information? Like Ramon Laureano at 3,700 looks okay. Sean Murphy's a decent catching option, but it's going to be really difficult for me to want to get to the A's. Like I would rather get to the Tigers against Plesac. I'd rather get to the Orioles against Patino.
Alrighty. Cardinals and Reds, 4.8 run implied total for the Cards, 3.9 for the Reds. Andre Payante and Hunter Green. No real ownership here. Hunter Green at like 5%. Seems about right. I don't like targeting against the Cardinals, but Hunter Green's certainly got some strikeout stuff, allegedly.
Yeah, I mean, he does have good strikeout stuff, but he also gives up plenty of power. And this is a really, really dangerous spot for him. On the plus side, he's getting out of Cincinnati, but it's also 90 degrees in St. Louis. Having lived there, I can guarantee it's also humid if it's 90 degrees. So the ball should carry. And there's a lot of guys in this Cardinals lineup that have power and do not strike out very easily. That's really scary when you're talking about somebody that basically is either striking you out, walking you, or giving up a home run. 29% strikeout percentage this year, but a 10% walk percentage, 2.3 home runs per 9 innings allowed, 251 expected ISO to righties, 205 to lefties. Looks like a good spot for the Cardinals. I mean, the risk in rostering them is obviously that Hunter Green has extremely good stuff, and you're going to get plenty of games where Hunter Green just shuts down a good offense because he's got really, really good stuff. But he's still not entirely ready to be a consistent major league pitcher, and it reflects in the amount of power he gives up.
Let's talk Cardinals here. Fourth in aggregate exposure. A lot of that is going to Tommy Edman in the leadoff spot, which it should, for the most part, 3,300 second base shortstop eligibility. They are ninth in top stack, seventh in top value. I understand why they get a little bit of love. This is a weird team for me. Do you like St. Louis today?
Yes.
Okay. Talk to me about it. I'm having trouble balancing it all. They got to fifth in my top stack tool. So I guess I think that they're properly owned, but the ownership is just all over the map.
So Green gives up a lot of power. And then also the Cardinals are really favorably priced here. Goldschmidt and Arenado are around 5K, as they should be. They're obviously both really, really good. Gorman is cheap. Edman is cheap and leading off. Carlson's cheap. Tyler O'Neill's back. He's inexpensive. Corey Dickerson is basically min salary. I assume he's going to be in the lineup. I think they look really, really good.
Interesting. Okay. Corey Dickerson will be interesting if he's in the lineup, depending on where he's hitting at 2,100. Romine's bad if he's in the lineup. That's who I have in right now at 2,200, which does not help things. Austin Romine.
Oh, the catcher.
Yeah.
I was thinking in place of Dickerson.
No. I have Dickerson and Romine in the lineup right now.
Yeah.
We just don't in our ownership, but that's fine. The Edman ownership is like unappealing at north of 20. It's just I understand why I get it, but I'd be happy to get to like 2 through 5, 2 through 6 and get a stack that's basically not owned. Like,
yeah, exactly. Edman is on the short list at either second base or shortstop in cash for sure, 3,300. But like 12% to Gorman, 10% to O'Neill, no issues at all with those. Goldschmidt at 8%, Arenado at 3%. I like both of those.
Yeah. It's a weird, like the ownership is just weird on this team today. And maybe it's just thrown off by Edman. They're probably in the aggregate lower than fourth.
Right.
I would happily leave Edman out of tournament stacks. So,
or just play him and,
oh yeah, that's fine too. Elsewhere. I just mean like, if that's the easiest thing that you can do, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is just as like, you're not leaving anything on the table there.
Yeah, exactly. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 play a different shortstop.
Yep. Shouldn't be difficult to do at all. All right. We're going to Coors. Or actually, Reds bats other than Jonathan India, who's 15% owned.
Yeah, India at 3,200 looks good. Would expect that he's popular in cash games as well. Middle infield of India and Edman would make a lot of sense. But outside of that, not really. Piante doesn't miss a lot of bats, but he does do a good job getting ground balls. Cincinnati, we know, is one of the weaker offenses. 128 expected ISO allowed to righties this year, 130 to lefties for Piante. Not a lot to say about Cincinnati for me.
All righty. We're off to Coors now. 5.7 run implied total for the Rockies, 5.1 for the Pirates. Herman Marquez and Jose Quintana. Neither of these guys getting any ownership. If I got a couple shares of Herman Marquez, I wouldn't be mad about it. There's a lot of strikeouts in this Pirates lineup. It's not a very good Pirates lineup. I tend to get pitchers in Coors a little bit more than the public seems. Do you have any interest in Marquez today?
A little bit, but it's kind of in the same vein as like when the Padres were in Coors and I sort of had interest in guys like Minaya and Musgrove, where like they're probably going to be under-owned. Right now we have Marquez at 1%, less than 1% owned, 5.5% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, but still pretty low probability, still just somebody where chances are when I'm building lineups, it's going to be like, oh yeah, that it would be cool. Like the idea of getting the Marquez here is cool, but also I would rather just play 2 of Kershaw, Ray, Manoah, Woodruff, Darvish, and I don't think it's going to be that difficult.
Works for me. Yeah, like he showed up 6% for me. So again, nothing crazy, but this Pirates lineup, I have at a 25% aggregate K rate, which is the highest on the slate. So I'm always a little interested. Bats are clearly getting ownership here. Pirates, tops in ownership, third in top stack, second in top value. That's going to be difficult to get away from. For the Rockies, third in ownership. They are your number 1 stack, but they are priced like they are playing in Coors because they've been in back-to-back Coors slates. So they finally got those salaries to rise after 6 straight days. We'll start with the Pirates here. How do we manage this? So this is basically just like the really shitty version of the Padres.
Yeah, and I mean, the ownership is a bit lower than you were getting on the Padres, but it's the same kind of thing. Use these guys for value, mix them in. The highest owned guy on Pittsburgh right now is Vogelbach, projected for 16%. Same for O'Neill Cruz. So you are talking about very reasonable ownership here, as opposed to the other day when you were getting 30% to Cronenworth or whatever it was. So use these guys, mix them in as values. They look good. Marquez is a decent pitcher, but Coors Field is Coors Field. 202 expected ISO to lefties this year, 234 to righties. So really hasn't done a good job of limiting expected power either. Yeah, like feel free to use these guys. Just pay attention to what you're doing. Like you probably don't want to be playing large field tournament lineups where like you're playing, Dan Vogelbach at first base and Tommy Edman at shortstop and Jonathan India at second base or something. But feel free to mix these guys into your lower owned stacks as value. That's perfectly fine.
A lot of cash options, obviously, coming from the Pirates side, or like viable options for the Pirates and Rockies. But like, I don't think that anybody immediately stands out.
Yeah, I think it's more so just kind of using them as filler. Like Vogelbach, I would assume is cash first base, but also that could very easily be Vlad Guerrero if you can find the salary. That's kind of
Braves and Blue Jays make this look a little bit different.
Right. That's kind of how I view the Pirates here. I think it's difficult to pinpoint like one guy on the Pirates and say like this guy is definitely your whatever in cash. But it's more so like if you're not paying up for a Brave or a Blue Jay, you're probably paying down for a Pirate at that position.
Yeah.
Or, Tommy Edman. But if you're not going to like one of those types of guys, then you just probably are throwing whatever Pirate plays that position into your lineup.
Same sort of story for the Rockies on the opposite side. Like the first 5 hitters in the lineup are all north of 10% ownership. They're decent-ish values depending on who we're talking about. Do you like the Pirates more than the Rockies? Rockies are our number 1 stack for today.
Given the ownership, I do actually like the Pirates a little bit more. Neither offense is good. Obviously, the Rockies are a little bit better. They basically have like 100 WRC plus, 185 give or take ISO at home. Quintana is not bad, but not good. Like he's certainly not the type of pitcher that I'm worried about taking hitters against in Coors Field. 205 expected ISO of righties in particular, and there are plenty of good right-handed bats on Colorado. Joe, Iglesias, Bryant, Crone, Rogers, Grichuk is a perfectly solid 1 through 6. So I do like them, but the ownership's pretty comparable. 14% going to Joe, 13% to Rogers and Bryant, 12% to Iglesias, and they are more expensive. So it's not so much that I like the Pirates more than the Rockies. It's that I think you're going to be able to build much stronger teams around the Pirates than the Rockies, and the ownership is similar enough where I would give the edge to Pittsburgh.
There we go. There's like 15 dudes available for cash games between the Rockies and the Pirates today, so I can't really ask. I mean, we have, just in what I see here, based on the lineups that I have, 11 guys projected between 10 and 16% ownership. It's just, you got a lot there. A lot of cash viability in this one. No surprises. Anything else for Rockies and Pirates?
Nope.
All righty then. Final thing we got to talk about, promo code PUPPY, PUPPY. Underdog has their Puppy 2 best ball contest that's out right now. If you want to try to get in there or some other places, we are offering a $1 weekly access to our best ball draft kit through Sunday, July 15th. Wait a second. That's the wrong date. Is it through Friday, July 15th or Sunday the 17th? Let's see. Is it on the graphic? Sure shit isn't. I don't know. If you can do it today, you probably should. Maybe it's Sunday. Maybe it's Friday. We make up dates around these places, but it's $1 if you're interested. $1 that gets you our best ball and season-long fantasy football rankings, our Underdog daily draft rankings, best ball stacking guide, cheat sheets, premium articles, and more. Just use the promo code PUPPY, PUPPY. All caps, by the way. Angels and Dodgers. 3.3 run implied total for the Angels, 4.7 for the Dodgers. Patrick Sandoval and Clayton Kershaw going here. No one rostering Sandoval. 27% of people rostering Clayton Kershaw, 9,400. He is in the middle of the pack of salaries of all the 20-plus owned guys that are at the top. It is the Angels. There are some strikeouts in this lineup. There are a couple spots that are tough. What do you do with Clayton Kershaw?
I think he's the best pitcher on the slate.
Whoa. The floor is yours. I don't agree.
He's $9,400, which is a stupid price tag. He's cheaper than Robbie Ray. He has a 27.6% strikeout percentage, which is identical to Ray. 2.91 xFIP. Doesn't have the same power issues. Coming off back-to-back starts where he's thrown 98 and 102 pitches. He's facing the Angels, who may or may not have Trout, but have tons and tons of strikeouts once you get past the Stefanich, Trout, Ohtani, Ward portion of the lineup. He's getting less ownership than Ray. He's getting less ownership than Manoah. He looks like the best pitcher to me.
Wild. I think it's Ray by a mile. I have Kershaw with the 4th best projection of those top 5 guys. Only guy that I have him ahead of is Woodruff. Clearly going to get to him. Like him, don't have anything else to add. It's a blurry area at the top. I can't go all the way to the top. I got too big of a gap here between him and Robbie Ray. We all know how this worked out yesterday, everybody. So
we all know how DFS typically works out. So don't chase lightning toys.
Tyler, if you can, go to Adam's Twitter and show his month of June, please. We'll see how things are working out. If that's working out, man, I think things are going pretty good for me. Oh, man. Obviously, that's a joke, too. You can't just look at a 1-month sample the same way that you can't just look at the Tigers.
Somebody asked for July, so I posted that, too.
Obviously, going to look a little bit better than the straight
line
calamity. Yeah. Not good.
I'm not sure I'd ever seen a monthly graph look that bad.
Ooh, that's... God damn. Those are the bad days, man. Those are the bad days. Those days feel a lot worse during basketball season too, because of the amount of additional work you got to put into it.
The only thing that made June not feel as shitty is that crypto was tanking and stocks were tanking. The worst is when you go on a DFS downswing like that and everyone is just printing money in crypto while you're just punting it away in DFS.
Yeah. Oh God. That is. You guys can track your result. Oh, Tyler actually did pull that up. That's hilarious. Let's talk bats here. Dodgers are 15th in ownership, 6th in top stack. I got a sneaky suspicion we really like the Dodgers today.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I like them. I think Patrick Sandoval's good. So
same.
Compared to some of the other spots you can get to, I think they're like a little more muted. But 172 expected ISO to righties, 24.5% strikeout percentage for Sandoval. The Dodgers are always a good team to stack. 2% ownership. I'm more than happy to get there. I think Toronto's clearly in a better spot. I think Atlanta's clearly in a better spot, but they're also getting more ownership.
I'm intrigued by the Dodgers. I have them a little bit lower in top stack, but even still, quite a bit ahead of that ownership number. So I am intrigued by LA. We'll see where we end up as we get closer to lock. Angels side, I don't really want anything here.
I clearly don't. I mean, Trout, Ohtani are fine, but
yeah. All right. Padres and Diamondbacks. 4.2 run implied total for the Pods, 3.1 for the Diamondbacks. Yu Darvish and Madison Bumgarner. Bumgarner unowned, as he should be. Darvish, 22% owned at 8,900. Love the price tag here. I have him as the third best projection, but also with that price becomes a little bit more interesting to me. I love the idea of getting to Yu Darvish.
Yeah, I like Darvish as well. Pretty cheap price tag. Strikeout numbers are down a bit this year from where they normally are at 22.5%, but he's not walking a lot of guys. He's limiting power, which is an issue that he's had in the past. 3.96 xFIP is solid, and there's always a chance that those strikeout numbers rebound a bit as well. Cheap enough price tag. Just, think he looks pretty good here.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. I like him a lot. 8,900 certainly works. Bumgarner certainly doesn't. Bats seem to be working for the public in this one, but kind of weird. The Padres are 7th in aggregate ownership. The highest owned guy is Jorge Alfaro at 8%. So that's not really an owned stack. I don't have them ranking that high. I think the Padres are pretty significantly over-owned right now. This is not a spot that I'm really trying to attack.
Yeah, from a full stack standpoint, I probably don't get to them that much. I don't think Bumgarner is any good. He does really struggle with right-handed power. 212 expected 244 expected ISO to righties, 18% strikeout percentage. Manny Machado individually, I really like. You're getting 7.5% ownership going to Machado at basically the same price point as 22% owned Ramirez. I like Ramirez, but I think Machado makes for a really good just tournament pivot if you're in that price range. I think Luke Voit looks okay, but first base is obviously a deep position. It always is. I like Alfaro, assuming he's in the middle of the order. Ruiz is getting some ownership. He's 2K flat. He has 60 stolen bases already this year in the minor leagues. So obviously that's a high upside value play, but it's more so just I think I use these guys as mini stacks or one-offs just individually to kind of offset some ownership from other guys, like I was talking about with Machado versus Ramirez, more so than just 5-man stacking them, most likely.
Diamondback side's not really pulling any ownership. They don't rank very well in the top stack tool, and they face Yu Darvish, so I think we can just move on.
Agreed.
Closing it out, Giants and Brewers look similar to yesterday. 3.5 run implied total for the Giants, 3.7 for the Brewers. Alex Wood and Brandon Woodruff, battle of the woods. Sort of. 8,600 for Wood, 10,200 for Woodruff. We've got Wood at 10% ownership. We've got Woodruff at 28% ownership. I think both of those numbers seem about right to me. I think Woodruff is getting a little bit too much love, but nothing too crazy. It's more like a salary problem than anything else.
Yeah, agreed. It's just kind of difficult for me to want to get Woodruff at the same ownership as Manoah, Ray, Kershaw when he's more expensive than all of them. Not to mention similar ownership to Darvish, who's a lot less expensive. But Woodruff certainly looks good. He's a good pitcher. He's in a good park. 31.9% strikeout percentage is the highest on the slate by a pretty wide margin, 2.98 xFIP. I do think he's the best pitcher on the slate. It's just that he's also a little bit more expensive. So I like getting him, but I would prefer that ownership come down a little bit. Or the ownership on guys like Kershaw and Ray go up, and that would make Woodruff look better comparatively as well. But outside of that minor concern, I think Woodruff looks very good.
I say the same things as you, so I'm prefacing what I'm about to say with that statement. You said it's a good park. When you say that, what do you mean?
It's a good park for pitching.
Why?
Run prevention?
No. So I say that same shit too. Park factor, 3-year rolling at Baseball Savant, dead neutral.
For 100. San Francisco?
Yeah. They don't give up home runs, but apparently have no issue giving up runs.
That's interesting.
I had no idea until like 2 days ago when I pulled all these park factors. Dead neutral. The biggest run park factor is Seattle.
So why is the total in San Francisco always so much lower than everywhere else?
Good pitching? I don't know. Bad offenses?
But the Giants have had good offenses for years.
I don't know, man. Now, the key here is their home run park factor is 82. So like they're not giving up anything that like exponentially changes the amount of runs that are coming in. I don't really know how to read into this. I say the same thing. I always said that Oracle Park was a great pitcher's park. Like these are the same things that I came to. I noticed this like Tuesday, and this was the first chance that I thought about like talking about it. But per their run park factor, it doesn't appear that that's the case. Even if I just look at like multiple years, so just like going back, this is where it gets interesting. It used to be low, 90, 86, but now up to 100, even with a 3-year rolling stat. I don't totally understand what's happening here.
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't know if it's just like other stadiums have become better pitchers parks, so that raises the tide.
You know what it could be? Well,
no,
it would be this year. So they put humidors in like every park this year. So maybe that offset some of the weather factors from San Francisco.
Yeah, maybe. I can't wrap my head around it. Their run park factor for the past couple years with no averages, so just like season by season, 104 this year, 98, 104, 83. So they're just all over the map.
Yeah, I mean, last year, so like I'm looking at ESPN. Last year they were 19th. This year they're 13th. 2020 they were 13th.
Now, big time pitchers park in 19.
Yeah, 2019 they were dead last, 29th.
Yeah.
14th in 2018.
It's changed the way that I look at, or I'd like to think it's going to change the way that I look at these types of games, because I think it's different from a DFS perspective where a home run is a real problem to just like a pitching perspective where they should probably project a little bit worse.
Right.
And to that degree, like from a hitter's perspective, I want the home runs. The scoring isn't as important. I think hitters are worse from a DFS perspective, but not necessarily worse from like an overall perspective. It's weird though. It would have I would have never guessed this. So I don't know how to. Chad Rink says, didn't they bring the fences?
I think they did, but like this is, I mean, even 2018, it was like average in terms of run prevention.
Yeah. Tricky. I don't know what to make of this. Do you?
No, I mean, it's not anything that's going to change what I do.
It changed for me. I made like sweeping changes to all my park factors that I had in and grabbed every. Like I used to grab everything from FanGraphs.
Projections, so
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only change to me, because like this is, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of those things where like in my process, I don't care. I don't look at it. It's more when I'm just trying to describe why things project certain ways. Yeah. So outside of like adding nuance to what I say on shows, it's not going to change anything for me.
Sure. Did not expect that little detail. But anyway, Alex Wood, 8,600 seems fine to me.
Yeah, he's good. I think the ownership on him makes sense. There are some strikeouts in Milwaukee's lineup. They have some power. Wood's a good enough pitcher. 23% strikeout percentage, 3.23 xFIP. Yeah, I like Alex Wood. I don't think he's like a huge priority given the other options on the slate and how close he is to them in price.
Okay. We're not talking about bats on either side of this game, are we?
Nope.
It is a much better park for runs, though, for hitters. So maybe you want to give a little skosh of a bump to the Giants and Brewers. But no, I don't need anything here on the opposite side of Alex Wood or Brandon Woodruff. So,
well, and you did mention it too. Like, it's still really difficult to hit home runs here, which is really what you're looking for in DFS.
Exactly. Yeah. It ends up being two different ways to describe what's happening because we don't necessarily care about the game itself. There are component pieces of this that are a little bit more interesting from a DFS perspective. Sum it up. Favorite pitchers?
Kershaw, Manoah, Darvish. That's
Stopping at 3. Okay. Yes. Stacks.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say Ray next, but I wanted to leave him off so that I could try to get a win over you this time.
Yeah.
Atlanta, Toronto, Minnesota, Cardinals, Dodgers.
GPP videos coming out imminently.
Yep, have a haircut at 1, so they will be out like as soon as I get off of this.
Okay, there we go. Well, I'll let you get out of here right now. We will both be back for the deeper dive at 4:45, so be ready for that one. Thank you for being here. Hit the like button on your way out the door because you didn't do it enough during the show. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. Good luck tonight, everybody. See you guys in a couple hours. Peace.